Now let's head over to the Middle East and Turkey, Patrick. And really, it's been interesting to watch what's been going on, particularly with Turkey's activities in Syria.
Yeah, well, Turkey is in the process of trying to pull off some pretty extraordinary maneuvers at the moment. So let's take a look at what's happening first. Well, first of all, President Erdogan, he has threatened to attack the Syrian government and Syrian government forces, and he's reaffirmed that threat this week. This all started with what was a miscommunication with the deconfliction office run by the Russians, and Turkey didn't notify them. Therefore, a Turkish convoy got hit as they rolled in to Idlib. And so Erdogan, then the war paint came on after that. So here is Dawat Bahçeli. He is Erdogan's kind of political partner, if you will, in this sort of coalition with the AKP party, and this is the Party for the Nationalist Movement. And this is him giving a speech this week, and I call him Turkey's Grey Wolf because that is the sort of nickname of this party, the Grey Wolves. Very Islamist, very much nationalist, very aggressive. Some might call this the fascist party within Turkey, and here he is giving his speech. And let's do the translation from the Turkish media and look at what he actually said here. If there is no any other option, Turkey should immediately make plans to enter Damascus and destroy the oppressors. This is Dawat Bahçeli, and he goes on just to clarify what his position is. Turkey must prepare to invade Damascus. The Russians are not reliable allies. The only friend a Turk has is a Turk. So this is sort of Erdogan's kind of extremist wing, if you will, of his kind of coalition that he's running right now. And so what's Turkey been up to? This is the question, and this is why it's complicated. Turkey's playing a very complicated game. It's got the United States on one side, NATO, and on the other side it has its relationship with Russia that it's managing, and then it's also has objectives in Syria. But let's look at what Turkey's been up to recently. So here they've deployed what are basically repurposed Free Syrian Army brigades into Libya to fight to defend Tripoli on behalf of the government of national accord. This is recognized by the UN as the, quote, legitimate government of Libya at the moment. And on the other side is General Haftar. And this is a motley coalition of various world powers backing this former CIA asset. Russia is also siding with Haftar. So oddly, Russia, the US, Saudi Arabia are on the same side, and the UAE as well, and I believe France too. But they all seem to be backing Haftar except Turkey. So Turkey's deployed what are effectively extremist jihadis, Syrians deployed to Libya, basically, to fight here. There's all sorts of spoils up for grabs here with Libya. I'm sure Turkey has maritime agreements and other energy agreements that they like to harvest from this relationship. That's just one thing. And over here, Turkey has repeated, he said it twice now, this is the second time in the last, say, 4 months, Turkey repeats that it's not going to recognize Russia's annexation of Crimea. That is a big move against Russia. So imagine they're having this close relationship with Russia, and then these announcements are coming out. So there he is with President Zelensky, pictured there, and this was just last week. And to move on, well, this will raise some eyebrows. The Ukraine is going to receive military aid from Turkey. So they're getting arms and multi-purpose goods and things that they can use for their military. $33 million worth of aid here, and this is going to the Ukraine. So this is quite contentious here. So Turkey, again, playing a kind of an interesting double game. What do we call it? Let's call it the Turkish twist. So what is the Turkish twist? This is Erdogan is adept at these dance moves, these pirouettes. And so there he is, the president, the prez right there. And let's look at the Russian dance. This is the dance that Erdogan is performing with the Russians. He's partnered with them with the Astana and Sochi peace plans, okay, meant to cooperate. This is to sort of de-escalate fighting in Syria and come on a kind of roadmap to stabilization and peace. And the Turk Stream gas pipeline, this is from Russia, this is from under the Black Sea into Turkey and then feeding into Eastern Europe. This gas project is massive, it's finished, they've done the deal. This is meant to supply natural gas to Europe to bypass the Ukraine, which is currently being blocked, let's say, by the Ukraine's relationship with the United States. Purchasing S-400 missiles, this obviously has upset the United States massively. One of the things, kind of a red line, if you will, that Turkey's crossed there.
And I believe they've received their first one this week, in fact.
That's right, that's right. So this is a big ticket item from Russia that being purchased by Erdogan. And of course, Erdogan's playing nice with Putin. They just had a phone call to reaffirm their commitment for the de-escalation zones in Idlib. Meanwhile, the whole thing is completely falling apart. So, and here's the American dance that Erdogan is doing, cozying back up to Washington now in the last couple of months. So something's changed behind the scenes there. Reaffirmed commitments to NATO, and whereby NATO was questioning Turkey's actions in the last 6 months. Now he's broken Sochi and Astana agreements. He broke the Sochi agreements. Turkey was meant to uphold the de-escalation zones. They're meant to separate the moderate rebels from the terrorists, and they haven't done that. In reality, there's no difference between the moderate rebels and the terrorists. We know that, but just for argument's sake, that was destined to fail. Turkey hasn't upheld its part of that agreement. Astana, it was meant to help secure the Damascus-Aleppo International Road, which is absolutely crucial to stabilizing Syria. They haven't done that. So on both of those agreements, they've broken them. Now, foreign jihadis' arms into Syria, Turkey has facilitated this from 2011 consistently. They're still doing it. So obviously this is helping America. Washington likes this. So Syrian jihadis to Libya, Washington. I don't know how Washington feels about this. I don't know how anyone feels about it. But what it is doing is it's keeping these as a viable fighting force, which can be redeployed, effectively mercenaries. So what you might see is these Free Syrian Army jihadis transforming into a mercenary force, kind of like a professional mujahideen, if you will, which could be deployed all over the world, in fact. So this is good for the U.S. 33 million in arms to the Ukraine, and no recognition of Crimea in Russia. And so Turkey's interest, this is really what Turkey is pursuing, a Neo-Ottoman agenda. They're also becoming a regional player again. This includes North Africa, the Sahel region, and projecting their influence further afield. We're already seeing that in Libya, for instance. So it wants to become a player again. This is a major goal. This is like make America great again, make Turkey great again. So think of Erdogan like you think of Trump. Very similar in terms of the nationalist reaffirming Turkey's place in the world. So to capture new economic markets, micro-colonialism, this would be like Sudan, these are places like Somalia, and of course Syria. Syria has become a market for Turkey because they destroyed Syria's manufacturing sector and they're dumping cheap Turkish goods in there. So the new Turkey this is the main thing. They're transitioning from a secular to an Islamic state. This is a major historic transition which is not really being reported very much. And so that's going on right now. It's been going on for the last, say, 10 or 15 years. Now it's really becoming noticeable. So this is a very contentious issue. So smash the Kurdish insurrection and expand the security buffer zone along the Syrian border.
So that's it. The question is, does Erdogan actually appreciate or have a plan? Because it seems he's fighting a proxy war in Libya against the US and everybody else. He's taking S-400s. That seems NATO can't be happy with that still, and yet he's trying to sidle up back with NATO, and he's trying to maintain relations with Russia and Putin. How is this going to work? How is it going to end?
This is what Turkey does because this is Turkey's place in the world. They are at the bridge between the East and the West, between Europe, between Asia. So this is the only way that they can behave. And in the current world power structure that we have, as complicated as it is, with the United States pushing, with NATO and France, Britain have interests as well. Israel has interests. Everybody's pressing. Syria is the sort of hub of this pressure at the moment, and Turkey is trying to capitalize on this to what I think is possibly also to increase territory by giving patronage to groups that it's populated into the border regions, and in 30 or 50 years they could make a play again for that territory. So, but for them it's a security buffer zone against the Kurds. And so very similar to how Israel has managed its relationship with Lebanon and some of its neighbors.
But is there no danger that they're just going to hack everybody off to such a degree that they end up with no friends anywhere?
This is the thing. It could be, but also people need Turkey as well. The United States have Incirlik Air Force Base there. It's a very important beachhead for NATO, for the United States, for the Middle East and Asia. So and Turkey knows this, so it's just a painful, very complicated, and grinding relationship that will just continue. And the big worry is that Turkey could start a shooting war with Syria. I don't think that's going to happen. This is why they've used proxies and put those out front and deputized the Free Syrian Army and folded them into their military, because they don't want their soldiers coming home in body bags. But they're having to fight now because the jihadis are cutting and running in Idlib. So now this is a problem. So Erdogan talks tough to his base, like Trump will talk tough to his base, make Turkey great again. But when it comes down to it, are they ready for a shooting war? And if they do, the Turkish people are going to demand that it's worth it. There has to be a good reason behind it. And I don't think there is really that good reason there. And this is why he's really in trouble right now, potentially, Erdogan.